Live from London, this is BBC News. President Biden grants a pardon to his son Hunter, and it sparks anger among top Republicans. Syria's president turns to Iran and to Russia for support after rebel groups gain control of the country's second largest city, Aleppo. Another night of unrest on the streets of Georgia. The government says 21 police were injured in clashes with pro-EU protesters. The BBC comes under pressure to pause MasterChef while allegations against Greg Wallace are investigated. And a row over France's budget sparks fears of political chaos as the opposition threatens to topple the government. Hello, I'm Lucy Hockings. Welcome to BBC News Now. 3 hours of fast-moving news, interviews and reaction. Let's start in the US, where President Biden has been criticised by leading Republicans for pardoning his son Hunter, who was due to face sentencing this month on federal gun and tax convictions. The president gave him a full and unconditional pardon, covering a decade, despite previously saying he would not interfere with the Justice Department's decisions. This was the president speaking in June this year.
I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I'd abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
So in issuing the full and unconditional pardon, Joe Biden addressed why he'd made this decision. He had this statement and said that from the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making. I kept my word, even as I've watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. He went on to say that no reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out because he is my son. And that is wrong. He also said, I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. Let's bring you some reaction, take you live to Washington. We can speak to Andrew Feinberg, who is a White House correspondent for The Independent. Andrew, very good to see you. So much reaction coming into this pardon. Take us through it all.
Well, Republicans are unhappy with this, as one could expect. And you're seeing a lot of displeasure from some Democrats. President Biden, for months and months, said he would not do this, that there was not any consideration of a pardon for Hunter Biden, that this wasn't being discussed, that this was not an option, that he was not going to use this unilateral power that the president has to absolve his son of any consequences for these crimes for which he was either tried and convicted or pleaded guilty. He has reversed that decision, and people on both sides of the aisle are quite dismayed, particularly when you look at what's going to happen in January. Donald Trump is going to come in, and a lot of Democrats are concerned that he's going to use this one pardon of Hunter Biden to justify pardoning the hundreds and hundreds of convicted criminals, rioters who sacked the Capitol in 2021 in that futile attempt to keep Joe Biden from being sworn in. So you're going to see a lot of anger about this. It's going to continue. And you can expect Donald Trump, who took to Truth Social last night to comment on this, to make what Joe Biden did last night part of the mythology behind why he will use the pardon power pretty aggressively to reward his friends and supporters when he returns to office in January.
Andrew, is it the pardon itself that people are upset about or critical of, or is it the fact that the president has made this U-turn because he said he wasn't going to do it?
I think it's mostly the second one. Even among Republicans, you have some grudging admission that this is Joe Biden's son, and we expected this. It was not unexpected if you look at Joe Biden's relationship with his son, Hunter, his only surviving son. His elder son, Beau, died of brain cancer in 2015. But Republicans are also holding this up as an example of what they describe as a two-tiered system of justice. But there is a lot of sympathy for the position that the president was put in. A lot of the anger you're seeing among Democrats is the fact that he broke his word, that he said, no, this is not happening. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre and other White House spokespersons said at the top of their lungs this was not going to happen. And he just went ahead and did it. And in doing so, he's really torched his own spokespeople's credibility and to some extent his own over his remaining weeks in office, because he simply went back on his word in an explicit way, in a very public way.
Andrew, great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Well, President Biden is now on his way to Angola. This is his first and only visit to Africa as president. He's expected to highlight a US loan to help build a new 1,300-kilometre railway that's going to connect Angola's Atlantic coast to Zambia's Copperbelt and the Democratic Republic of Congo's cobalt mines. This is a project that's seen as a direct challenge to China's dominance in the region's mining and infrastructure. To Syria now, President Assad has welcomed support from Iran and Russia in the fight against the rebels who have now taken control of the second largest city, Aleppo. Russia has been carrying out a series of airstrikes in support of government troops. It's reported that 12 people were killed when a hospital was hit. Another strike inside the northwestern city of Idlib killed 8 civilians and wounded more than 50. Warplanes are also striking rural parts of Idlib and Hama, where the group leading the rebel offensive has recently taken control. This surprise offensive by opposition forces, which began on Wednesday, marks the most significant fighting in Syria's civil war in recent years. We'll be live in Syria in a moment, but first, here's our correspondent Barbara Plett-Usher, who sent us this update from neighbouring Lebanon.
They're alive. Rescued from the wreckage moments after the bombs struck. Footage posted by the Syrian civil defense group, the White Helmets, shows the aftermath of an attack on the rebel stronghold of Idlib, southwest of Aleppo. The regime is fighting back. Thousands of people have been displaced, fleeing Aleppo and areas around Idlib. Their lives suddenly upended by this escalation in Syria's civil war.
We are following the battle news, and God willing, the regime will fall. We count night and day to return as the kids are tired and shocked. We left and came here in our clothes and nothing else.
The speedy capture of Aleppo took everyone by surprise, a devastating blow to the Assad regime. The insurgents continue their advance, but here the city's coming to terms with a new normal. Some are fearful of the anti-government rebels, but so far people continue with their daily lives. And for those driven out by previous battles, a chance to come home.
I returned to Aleppo after it was liberated, after we were driven out. I came back to experience this joy, to witness its greatness, its old neighbourhoods cleaned up after being desecrated by the Assad regime and its collaborators.
It isn't clear if the insurgents can hold on to the territory captured, but they have exposed the weakness of Bashar al-Assad's rule. This is the first sighting of him since the fall of Aleppo, meeting Iran's foreign minister, a crucial ally, along with Russia, both consumed by their own conflicts, but trying to bring the situation back under control. The front lines of Syria's civil war have been redrawn, and no one knows what comes next. Barbara Plett-Usher, BBC News, Beirut.
We can take you live now to Aleppo and speak to Khaled Al-Khatib. He is a member of the White Helmets. You'll remember they're a humanitarian organisation which has been running rescue operations in opposition-controlled areas of Syria throughout the civil war. Very good to have you with us, Khaled. How are you and what's happening in Aleppo at the moment?
Hello, thank you for having me. So actually the situation in Aleppo city is very terrific right now, as the airstrikes still targeting the city, and there were like many airstrikes targeted different areas. And our team, once again, they entered Aleppo after 8 years of forced displaced, and unfortunately in the same condition after the following the Syrian regime like withdrawing they start targeting the civilians. And actually, the situation is still terrific. And our team's still reaching the scene of attack to try to confirm and support the civilians there. And the humanitarian situation in general, it's still very tough as the most of the essential services postponed. There is a struggle to reach for to the bakers, to medical services, and also for water and electricity. And our team is still doing their best to operate there. And
Khaled, it must be incredibly frightening for everyone there at the moment. It must still feel so dangerous. Is the actual bombing of Aleppo intensifying?
Actually, today, the aircraft show on the city, there are still some bombardment in different neighborhoods, and there is a concern from the civilians there right now because they think the Syrian regime may target and use prohibited weapons against them, cluster bombs, chemical weapons, as they did in the past. So this is the concern right now. And
Khaled, for those that are injured at the moment with this bombing that is taking place, is there somewhere to take them? Is there a hospital that's up and running and fully operating?
Actually, unfortunately, not yet. The medical facility hasn't functioned yet, and our team are transferring the wounded and injured and the casualties from Aleppo City to the medical facilities in Idlib. And it's very dangerous. It's very tough as the links to the road is still dangerous. The road is still under attack, and this makes the task of our team much harder.
And are people desperately trying to leave the city, even though they might feel it's dangerous to get out on those roads?
Actually, it's very dangerous for anyone in the city to go out of their homes because there is some fighting still taking place around the city, and the airstrikes still targeting many areas. So we have shared some awareness messages to the people to stay at their homes until the situation starts getting better. Because as I mentioned, the airstrikes still target the cities. And we ask the civilians to stay away from the gathering square over there.
Please stay safe, Khaled. Thank you very much for joining us. Really good to have your view and to hear what is happening inside Aleppo. President Assad blaming the United States and other Western countries for this rebel offensive. He's been holding a phone conversation with the Iranian president as well, and accused Western nations of trying to redraw the map of the Middle East. So we'll keep you across all of these developments coming to us from Syria, a very dangerous point in the civil war. Do stay with us. Coming up, we're also going to take you live to Paris. The French Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, faces a crucial budget vote there, and if rejected, it could lead to the collapse of his minority government. So more chaos in terms of French politics. We're live in Paris in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. The unrest is continuing in Georgia at the moment. Authorities saying 21 police officers have been injured in pro-EU demonstrations on Sunday. This was an arrest that was triggered by the Prime Minister's announcement on Thursday that he would suspend Georgia's bid to join the EU. On Sunday, he rode back on those comments. Steve Rosenberg is there for us in Tbilisi and sent us this report.
In Tbilisi, now every night is fireworks night. A fourth night of protests outside Parliament, while inside, police try to keep protesters at bay. A brolly helps at moments like these.
So the police right now are firing streams of water from inside the Parliament, going the other way, fireworks hurled by the protesters. It is the most surreal standoff.
The crowds are huge. So is the disappointment that the government here has frozen accession talks with the EU. But people are still hoping.
Every single day, there's more and more people coming, and it gives me hope that this government will finally go away.
No sign of that. Earlier, the head of the government praised the police and condemned the protests.
Many of the protesters have said to me that by suspending until the end of 2028 Georgia's bid to join the European Union, you have stolen, your government has stolen their European dream, their European future. People feel betrayed. Can you understand that?
The response is very clear. So we have not suspended anything related to the European integration. It's just a lie. And there are the opposition leaders, there are the media outlets linked with the opposition who are just lying to these people.
But you suspended this until 2028.
No, it's not true. It's not true.
Really? Here's what he said 3 days ago.
Today, we have decided not to put the issue of opening negotiations with the European Union on the agenda until the end of 2028. We also refuse any budgetary grants from the European Union until the end of 2028.
It was that announcement that sparked the protests and violence. Here, a makeshift firework gun fires at police, while police officers have been accused of assaulting protesters.
You must have seen the videos of the brutal way in which the police have treated some of the protesters in the last few days. What is your reaction to that?
Investigation will happen against this kind of incidents, but also in this case, it's important to have a clear position with regard to the violence from both sides.
The protesters accuse the government of selling out to Russia, which the authorities deny. Neither side shows any sign of backing down. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Tbilisi.
Here in the UK, the government has released some figures confirming that the number of migrants crossing the Channel in small boats since Labour came to power has exceeded 20,000. The total for this year as a whole is 33,684. More on the story coming up in about half an hour's time. Also here in the UK, MasterChef presenter Greg Wallace has been criticised for saying the complaints about his alleged misconduct have come from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age. Greg Wallace's stepped aside from presenting the cooking programme last week after a BBC News investigation revealed allegations of inappropriate sexual comments and behaviour, which he denies. Noor Nanji reports.
In the newspaper, I can see the complaints coming from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age just from Celebrity MasterChef. This isn't right.
Greg Wallace in an Instagram video yesterday hitting back at his critics. The presenter has been under pressure after BBC News revealed a string of misconduct allegations against him. We spoke to Gemma, not her real name, who worked with Wallace. She says he made her and her colleagues feel uneasy.
Working with Greg was tricky. He was constantly making sexually inappropriate jokes and comments. His behaviour was unacceptable in any kind of workplace.
He's posted this video today. What do you make of that?
I was mortified when I saw it this morning because it's so dismissive of the people that have come forward, especially the younger girls. and about their experiences. I don't know what class and age have to do with it.
Our investigation heard from 13 people across a range of ages who worked across 5 different shows. They include a MasterChef worker in 2005 who says Wallace said sexually explicit things on set. Kirsty Walk, who says Wallace used sexualised language on Celebrity MasterChef in 2011. 2 workers on Impossible Celebrities in 2018 who raised a formal complaint about Wallace's behaviour. A worker on Big Weekends in 2019 who says Wallace asked her the logistics of how she had sex as a lesbian. 2 workers on Eat Well for Less in 2019 who say Wallace came out topless in front of them. A worker on MasterChef in 2019 who says Wallace stared at her chest and asked for a massage. We've heard allegations right up to 2022. And more claims have since emerged, including from the presenter Kirsty Allsop, who said he made inappropriate remarks.
Greg, who I'd never met before, was there with his partner. I think she was a new partner at the time. And I'd been chatting to her, and she left the room, and he made a reference to something they did in bed. But then he came out this morning and said this thing about middle-aged, middle-class women. That is unacceptable.
Greg Wallace remains one of the most recognisable faces on TV. And for now, he is still on our screens, with the remaining episodes of this season's MasterChef still due to go out. Noor Nanji, BBC News.
Well, on that very point, speaking on the Today programme this morning on Radio 4, Labour MP Rupa Huq said airings of MasterChef should be paused while the investigation is ongoing.
There is an argument for pausing while this investigation takes its course and maybe not airing it tonight. I mean, it could be massively triggering for the women involved, in fact, any woman involved in any type of similar incident. So I think out of sensitivity, because otherwise, I mean, I know you're saying that he's stopped presenting, but to the casual viewer, there's not going to be any difference if it's on TV tonight. It looks like sort of he got away with it. And I think the BBC should send a strong signal that this sort of behaviour, I mean, we need to let the investigation do its work. But at the same time, if he's being dangled on our screens when all this is going on, I just think at the moment, maybe pause it.
France's parliament is facing a crucial budget vote, which could potentially trigger a no-confidence vote in the Prime Minister, Michel Barnier. Mr Barnier lacks a majority, and his social security budget is widely opposed within Parliament. Marine Le Pen of the National Rally, the party with the most seats in Parliament, is trying to force the government into making concessions. If the budget is rejected, it could potentially lead to the collapse of the government, and that could happen within days. Straight to Paris, let's join our correspondent there, Hugh Schofield. Hugh, what do some of these politicians have issue with when it comes to the budget?
Well, I mean, it's a complicated bit of legislation. In fact, there are 2 texts here. There's the social security budget and there's the main budget. What we can say for certain is that Marine Le Pen has been chivying away at Michel Barnier to try and get him to sort of take away some of the measures which she says are unacceptable. In other words, tax for the poor and middle classes mainly. And he's given way. He's removed a higher tax that he's going to put on electricity, for example. And we've just heard this morning, the last hour or so, that he's also removed a measure which would have made it necessary for people to pay a little bit more for medicines. He's going to raise or diminish the reimbursement level on a number of sort of key medicines. That was a demand of hers. So what I'm saying is that right down to the wire here, there is negotiation going on. It's not impossible that he will come to some deal with Marine Le Pen in the next hour, because he's only got about an hour left now, which would mean that she doesn't come out and calls her troops back at the last minute. But it's very, very tense. And if she decides that he hasn't given enough, then, as you said in your introduction, the possibility of her, in effect, toppling the government becomes very, very real.
Because remind us, Hugh, of the makeup of the government. It's a minority government that Michel Barnier leads.
Yeah, well, the parliament he does not command a majority in parliament. It's a government which relies on the centre right, his party, which is only about 50 seats, and then the old Macronites, another 120 seats or so. Overall, they have about a third, or a bit more than a third of parliament, and the rest are the other 2/3 are the hard right, Marine Le Pen. And then the left-wing coalition on the other side. What he's trying to do is get Marine Le Pen to at least abstain in this vote on the various bits of budget legislation. And if she does that, he can get it through. But we just don't know whether she will or not.
Hugh, as you mentioned, negotiations taking place at the moment. He's got an hour, and we will keep across those developments and what is happening in Paris for everyone throughout the day. Thank you so much. Do stay with us here on BBC News. Plenty more to come, including the latest from Syria. We'll be looking at all the different groups operating there at the moment and who has power and control. Do stay with us.